Boxing is known as the sweet science, a sport of skill, precision, and courage. But sometimes the sweetness turns bitter and the courage leads to tragedy. On March 24, 1962, one such tragedy unfolded inside the ring. A tragedy that changed boxing forever. A tragedy that shook the world of sports and left us asking a haunting question. Who really killed Benny "Kid" Paret? Welcome to our channel, Back to Boxing. First, let's understand who Benny Paret really was. He wasn't just an ordinary boxer. No, he was a warrior. A man who fought with all his heart, pride, and sometimes with a reckless edge that fans loved. Born as Bernardo Paret on March 14, 1937, in Santa Clara, Cuba, Benny grew up in a modest environment, typical of many young men in Cuba seeking a way out of poverty. Inspired by the success of fellow Cuban fighters, Benny turned to boxing as a means to build a better future. Paret made his professional debut in 1954 and quickly gained attention for his aggressive style, toughness, and relentless energy in the ring. Known as Kid Paret, he fought in one of boxing's most competitive eras. While not a heavy puncher, his relentless volume and pressure overwhelmed his opponents. In 1960, Benny won the welterweight championship for the first time by defeating Don Jordan, solidifying his reputation as a formidable fighter. By 1962, Benny had won the title twice, but it wasn't just his skill that made headlines. Benny was known for his trash talk, his swagger, and his fearlessness in the ring. The rivalry between Benny "Kid" Paret and Emile Griffith was one of the most intense and dramatic in boxing history, a rivalry that culminated in tragedy. The two fighters faced each other 3 times, with each bout marked by fierce competition and personal tensions. Paret won their first meeting in 1961, claiming a split-decision victory and solidifying his reputation as a relentless champion. But boxing wasn't all glory for Benny. Griffith avenged the loss in their rematch later that year, reclaiming the welterweight title with a brutal knockout. But it was their third fight, in 1962, that would go down in infamy. The fight took place in New York City's Madison Square Garden. The stakes couldn't have been higher, a title on the line and pride on both sides. The air was electric, fans packed the venue, and millions tuned in to watch live on television. But what unfolded that night, no one could have predicted. During the weigh-in, Benny Paret was in high spirits, while Emile Griffith seemed somber. Griffith weighed in at 144 pounds, and Paret mocked his weight. But things took a turn when Paret insulted Griffith's sexuality in a high-pitched voice. In 1962, homosexuality was ridiculed and considered cowardly. However, Griffith remained focused on his goal of becoming the world champion. Griffith was about to step off the scales when he heard his trainer Gil Clancy shout, "Hey, watch it!" Griffith turned around. A smirking Paret feigned intercourse with him while his trainers howled with laughter. Paret waggled his finger at Griffith and said in a cocky tone, "Hey, maricon," homosexual in Spanish, "I'm gonna get you and your husband." Griffith entered the fight with fire in his eyes. You see, Benny had called him a slur in the lead-up to the match, words that cut deep, words that enraged Griffith. And when the bell rang, Griffith unleashed that anger. By the 12th round, Benny was taking punishment like no one had seen before. Griffith pinned him to the ropes, delivering blow after blow. Left hook, right uppercut, another left. Griffith turned his body to add even more power to each punch he threw, as if answering Paret's taunt of maricon. Benny was helpless, trapped, his hands down, unable to defend himself. The referee, Ruby Goldstein, watched closely, but didn't step in. Punches kept raining down, 17 unanswered shots. Benny slumped, collapsed. The fight was over, but it wasn't over, not for Benny Paret. He was rushed to the hospital unconscious. Doctors fought to save him, but the damage was too severe. 10 days later, Benny passed away. He was just 25 years old. Think about that for a moment. 25. A young man gone too soon, and the world of boxing was left to grapple with the fallout. But here's the question that haunted everyone. Who was responsible for Benny's death? Was it Emile Griffith who delivered those fatal punches? Was it the referee, Ruby Goldstein, for not stopping the fight sooner? Or was it the system of boxing itself, a sport that thrives on blood, sweat, and sometimes tragedy? Many pointed fingers at Griffith. After all, he threw the punches. But Griffith carried his own scars from that night. For the rest of his life, he struggled with guilt, saying, "I never went into the ring to kill someone." And then there was Ruby Goldstein, the referee. Some called him incompetent, arguing he should have stopped the fight when Benny was defenseless. But Goldstein defended himself, saying he acted based on what he saw in the moment. Finally, some blamed the promoters, the television networks, even the fans. Boxing was becoming a spectacle, a show for entertainment, no matter the cost. Benny's death became a harsh reminder of the sport's dark side. But Benny Paret's death wasn't in vain. It forced the boxing world to change. Rules were tightened, referees were trained to stop fights earlier, and the sport became safer, though never entirely without risk. But perhaps the greatest legacy is the story of Emile Griffith himself. Years later, Griffith revealed he was a closeted gay man, living in fear of the truth coming out. Benny's slur had cut deeper than anyone knew. Years later, Griffith had the opportunity to meet the son of Benny Paret. This meeting, which reportedly took place in the 1990s, was deeply emotional for both parties. Griffith, with tears in his eyes, expressed his long-held guilt and sorrow over the incident. Meanwhile, Paret Jr., showing remarkable understanding and forgiveness, assured Griffith, "I hold no ill will toward you," he said, pausing to emphasize his words. "I understand. It was an accident, something that happened in the heat of competition."
Are you the kid's son?
But I want you to know that there's no hard feelings here, and
Thank you.
This meeting was a poignant moment of reconciliation. It highlighted the humanity behind the sport of boxing and the emotional toll such tragedies can take on those involved. Griffith's story reminds us of this. Fighters aren't just warriors in the ring, they're human, carrying their own battles. So, who really killed Benny Paret? Was it Griffith, the referee, the system? Maybe it was all of them, or maybe it was none. What we do know is this: Benny's story is a cautionary tale, a reminder that every punch thrown carries weight, not just physical, but emotional and moral. And that is why Benny Kid Paret will never be forgotten. He wasn't just a fighter, he was a symbol of the sport's beauty and its brutality, a man whose legacy changed boxing forever. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please subscribe to Back to Boxing.